Thank you very much for this question. Before I answer it, I'd like to encourage you to register for this therapeutic discussion that we're going to have on Saturday, the 16th of November at 9 a.m. I'll share the link below. Investing in My Mental Health 101. I'm encouraging you to do that because it's going to specifically deal with this question in a deeper and broader form. So I encourage you to register. But to try and answer it now, what triggered to think on how you think, can you elaborate? There are a couple of theories that a person could use to approach this question, but we're going to use the most common one. And the most common one that we know clinically is the theory of cognitive development by Jean Piaget. So in the theory of cognitive development, there are different stages of developing cognition. Cognition is the way we perceive the world around us. Cognition is how we think. Cognition is a mental process that enables us to perceive what is happening and then form interpretations of what is happening so that it can bring meaning to our lives. And so there are different stages in which that occurs. And as we're growing up, from childhood to become adults, we tend to develop these mental frameworks that are called schemas. So schema is the way that you arrange information, is the way that you organize your thoughts, is the way that you build perceptions, is the way that you build perspective, opinions, attitudes. And so as you're growing up, these are being constructed. But you want to look at it in the sense that a child is not a passive recipient of this information that is being fed to them by the caregiver or by the environment or environmental factors. A child also has their own innate ways of perceiving and processing information. So there's a combination of factors. So as the child is growing up in the different things that they engage in, they're fed these narratives that are influenced by cultural practices or socio-cultural practices. So, for example, a child growing up might find themselves using toys that are pink in color or pink colored stuff, and then a boy uses blue colored stuff. And so that becomes a part of the software that is installed in their thinking that girls do pink and boys do blue, as an example. And so you want to expand that to all the areas in life that we go through to understand how then this information is integrated in the mind as a schema, as a mental framework. And so by the time you're 18 or by the time you're 25, you've already developed a software that is complete with information that you need to be able to relate with the world. Now, this information that you have, this software that you have, the way that it's organized, your files and folders, and the way that you think about things, right, is what we usually use to relate with new things that we encounter later in life as adults. So if I meet a new situation, then I'm likely to go back to my existing mental framework, existing schema, existing way of thinking about things, and try to see if it fits. So if it doesn't fit, then there are a couple of things that could happen. Either I try to change the new information, distort it so that it can fit what I already know, such that I'm not learning anything new. I'm just using the new things that I'm encountering and converting them into old understandings that I already have. And a lot of people do this, which then does predispose people to cognitive distortions, to negative ways of thinking about situations or not growing. Or I could decide that this new information does not fit my existing narrative, my existing software. So I have to create space in the narratives that I already hold to be able to accommodate this new information so that I can be able to adapt in the environment that I'm in. And so that becomes a healthy way then of dealing with new situations. But all these processes require awareness of existing schemas and meeting new information and finding ways then to create what we call equilibration. Equilibration is a term that Piaget says, where we want to try as much as possible to use our narratives to be able to understand new information, but also, if that is not possible, to be able to modify our existing narratives so that we can adapt to new situations, so that we can make room for us to be able to grow in new situations. And so what triggers us to think the way we think then would be where we grow up in, so environmental factors, what we're exposed to, and how our social cultural practices tell us to behave in those situations. That may trigger how we think in adulthood. I think then that would answer the question in this moment.